We carry cell phones.
I mean, they got a picture. They got my ID. You know, they got satellites. And they probably got all sorts of shit. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not even worried now. It's already happening. I talk to the FBI man in my phone all the time. My mom thinks I'm weird. I mean, I am, but it's still a thing. Like, who cares? You know? Oh yeah.
I know. I saw that. I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you for monitoring me.
Well, I mean, like, I kind of think, yeah, there are probably government ghosts in the machine, but I think there's legitimate ghosts in the machine. Like,
sometimes the machines are the ghosts.
Oh my
that's
god.
true. Like, have you just heard an Alexa just start rambling? I have.
Yeah, I've had to do that too.
My phone has talked to me, and not in the Siri voice. Okay, this might just be someone's like hacking my phone, maybe, and I'm just like stupid.
Oh,
but
it
I've
is.
heard
It
a male
is.
voice go, "What?" and "Hello." One time they said, "Do it again," and I was just gardening, so I don't know what that was, but it was
They
really
wanted
good.
you
I
to really
shut my phone
trowel
off.
that hole again.
That was my old phone. Luckily, I have a new phone, but still, like that. My phone has talked to me, and I just gotten used to it.
Oh my god. Okay, so Sid, last month, I don't think Kayla's done it again. I know I haven't because it scared the crap out of me. For some reason, it was a TikTok. A TikTok made me do it. I told Kayla to do it. We did it together. It was terrifying.
Okay.
Let me preface this by saying I am a very skeptical person. I am a very faith-based person, but I have a heavy dose of cynicism and skepticism in my personality. And I will call people out on it, okay? But I was watching this TikTok about this couple who are severely haunted somewhere in Britain, and they were using an application called like Ghost Tube.
Oh yeah, the ghost tube and like the SLR ghost tube or something.
Yes. Okay, so we playing D&D with his friends over Discord. And he was like, "What are you doing? My husband is a scientist. He is a chemist. He does not walk a path. His craft is science. He's a chemist. That's what he does. You know, he does not believe in ghosts. He marginally maybe thinks that there might be extraterrestrial life, but he saw me with my phone acting like an EMF reader, and he just started laughing his ass off. And then Kayla, I was like, Kayla, look at this. Kayla decided to download it, and you had like a full-on with something, didn't you?
Yeah, so they said hello, and then I met Grandma Thomas. And what did they say? They said a few things in that. I have it recorded because I saved it, but I can't remember. But I remember they said like goodbye after a while too. And they said like over here, because I was like, where'd you go? And that's what got me. I actually asked, where'd you go? And I thought I would just get some, regular generic response of hello again or something. But then I got an over here, and I was like, now, I'm skeptical too. And I'm like, it's either the software knows how to respond to what I say, or there really is a there. And I was also really high, though, and I was dog sitting, and I was also super drunk already. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm haunted already. And the dogs are just...
Yeah, I'd be skeptical of that too, but I have encountered an actual ghost, but it wasn't. It was in a shop space that I was doing some sewing in that another friend was renting, and it had previously been a pawn shop, and some of the remnants of the pawn shop, he hadn't redecorated any of it. We were just using it as a construction space. And I was only in there for a few months, but it was weird and dark, and especially in the bathroom. Like, it didn't matter how many lights you brought in there, it just sucked up the light and just felt threatening, like massively, massively threatening. And my partner and I ended up doing a full ritual thing to help the ghost that was haunting the bathroom and hall area move on to the next life. And after that, it was like the door opened, most of it went through, and we were left with just this mischievous little imp thing that we were totally cool with because we're down with deities like Loki. So, and then we found out a couple years later when we ended up through totally random circumstances, meeting the gal who owned the art gallery that was now in the same space. And we got to talking to her, and she told us that the owner of the pawn shop had been murdered and had crawled through the hall and died in the bathroom.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this whole I'll say it's a theory because of course I can't prove jack diddly. I have this theory that people aren't haunted, but spaces and things are haunted. Because you can't, my thought process through this is a spirit can't inhibit something that already has a spirit. You know?
I think it's rare for hauntings to happen at all. But they will be attached to whatever it is that ghost has unfinished business about if they are actually haunting something, which is different from a ghost just staying on this plane for some reason. Like most of the cat ghosts that I've seen are not haunting anywhere. They just decided, meh, I don't feel like going to the afterlife yet. I'm going to wander around as a ghost cat.
Yeah. Cat.
I think my former dog visited me though.
Box, maybe they'll sit in it, and
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people are going, oh, this house is haunted or this space is haunted, they're actually seeing the spirit of the place, and it doesn't like them for some reason.
Well, okay, tell me what you mean, because I mean that actually resonates with something within me, but I wanna understand what you're meaning.
Okay, well, I want to start with what I mean when I say spirit and what I mean when I say soul. So I kind of use spirit as like a umbrella term to encompass any sort of a non-corporeal entity. So this can include ghosts, it can include souls, it can include archetypes, deities, any sort of metaphysical entity, or even remnants of physical entities. Like I've seen echoes that are past events that were in an area that left an impression that was still visible. So I'll refer to those as spirits for lack of a better term. And then when I say soul, I'm specifically referring to an incarnated, a spiritual entity that is capable of incarnation, and it usually goes from life to life to life.
Okay. I can get behind that. I like that. I'm gonna write that down.
And that's my own distinction that I came up with because I wanted a way to talk more precisely about some of these things, because an archetype is very different from a deity, but they can be called upon in your practice for very similar things sometimes, depending on what you're doing. As with animism, you're looking at spirits and souls inhabiting things that Western culture teaches us don't have souls. So like my phone has a soul. Actually, my partner's phone gets a separation anxiety if she leaves it in the car and leaves the car, because usually it's the one playing the music, and it will start skipping. And when she comes back, it will stop. The soul of her phone loves her. Like it actually has transited from phone to phone to phone when they transfer all the data. The soul goes with it.
God, I've never thought of that.
And it's a little bit different, just like we're different every time we incarnate, but it's definitely the same soul.
It's that phone.
Yes,
it's still that one that phone
that she has had.
That Nokia from like
dude, Nokia doesn't die, so the soul doesn't die either. But in all realness, I kind of like that theory though with the Nokia thing, and like I'm not trying to be funny about it. Like, I actually like that idea with the Nokia souls don't die either, and that's why. Oh my god, I really like that.
Yeah, but
I am
a soul of a place. Souls of places are really, really unusual from a human perspective because, we have the easiest time relating to and seeing the souls that are the most like us. So that's going to be other animals. And from there, like plants and insects and stuff, because they are in a living form that's part of the evolutionary stuff that has become the world we're in. And then you've got objects, which again are embodied in a thing, but they're very different because it's not like they can take action the way. And then souls of place are the most different from in nature from the kinds of souls that inhabit human forms that are us. So they tend to be nested and layered, and different paths and traditions will have different ways of interpreting this sort of thing if they're animistic in nature. But when I look at it, what I see is different layers of souls. So like the room I'm in has a bit of an energy to it because it has a particular purpose compared to the whole building. It doesn't have its own soul though. But if you are in, say, a multi-room rental where different people have their own space that is theirs in individual rooms, those individual rooms can sometimes develop a soul presence. And then the whole building has a soul, and then the property has a soul, and the town has a soul, and they're all nested, layered within each other. So when you go for a hike, like in a place, or go walking along a city street, if you're paying attention, you can kind of see and feel the differences between the different blocks and spaces in front of particular shops. Like the energy in front of a really popular nightclub is going to be tremendously different from in front of the government building.
Right. That makes
and part of that is the soul of the place. And those places, if they are aware, like not every soul that's in a place or an object is awake and aware. A lot of the time they're just dormant, passively there in the thing. And so if your house is just feels like a blank slate, it may or may not have an individualized soul, but it will develop one if you live there for any length of time, but it may or may not be awake and aware. But if you have an old house, like your typical haunted house is usually a really old house where a lot of stuff has happened there and a lot of people have invested a lot of energy in it. And it is very much a thing. And most of those are aware and awake just because they've been there for long enough. And souls of place are, the way they experience time is very different from us. They're very, very, very long lived. Like a mountain lives for multiple millions of years. An ocean lives since they formed. It's a long, long thing. But if that building has particular opinions about what it likes, because it's had so many people coming through it over the years, and it decides that it doesn't like you, it can affect the energy of the place, and that can manifest as haunting-like incidents. And that's one of the things when people do house cleanings and cleansings and preparing a space and going, no, this is mine. It's different ways to approach, if you're animistic, how to deal with that. And even if you're animistic, you can look at how other people do things like house cleansings and look at how that would impact the soul of the house. Because sometimes it puts it to sleep. Sometimes it goes, nope, I want this soul gone, and we're creating a clean slate, and we're starting over from nothing.
Okay. So we did get a question in the chat. The question is from Matt. Hi, Matt. I know Matt's in Colorado. Matt's
Colorado.
So is this like imprinting energy or soul from living beings?
Imprinting energy. Imprinting energy is a little bit different, but that gets into layered energy dynamics. But if you imprint enough energy into something, it can make it very rich for a soul to inhabit. So like when you freshly create an object, it doesn't necessarily have a soul yet. But over time, a soul will usually attach to it in some way. But you can absolutely imprint your energy upon things, but you can also imprint your energy upon other humans. And there are like consent issues with people who do that to the humans around them. I've received a lot of different energy healings from a lot of different people over the years because I have a chronic illness. And there was one person who, he did energy healing by literally putting in his own energy like a Band-Aid into my energy. So you can imprint energy on other people, But the way I manage my own personal energy meant that within 10 minutes, it was gone because I don't keep stuff that's other people's in my own energy field. So
imprinting is different then.
Yeah, if I'm understanding what he means by imprinting, that's what I'm thinking. But if it's an object that actually has a soul, if the soul is dormant, well, it's objects. We exist in the world. They exist to do things, especially if they're man-made. And you do the things you need to do. And if you're imprinting your energy on them, so be it. But if it's awake, it's more polite to go, hey, shall we partner on this?
Okay. So when you say haunting, then is that, what do you mean by haunting then? Because if everything has a spirit, which I can gel with that. I totally can gel with that. That explains why almost every single piece of technology I own tries to commit suicide by jumping out of my hands. Like
every electronic device I've ever seen has a soul. And usually
this is the first phone I haven't cracked from dropping it. Like, honestly, you say, it just jumps.
Happened with every, like, people have seen it. I've been walking along doing this and my phone has like flung itself across the parking lot, and I'm not even like, I had a phone for 3 days and it jumped out of my purse. It didn't even fall more than like 2 feet and it cracked itself so bad I had to replace the phone. Not replace the screen. No, it like just killed it.
The whole phone? Dang.
It was 3 days old. Okay.
Did not like you.
It was in a life-proof case. Okay. And it still killed itself. But I digress.
Not to throw shade at Life Proof, please don't hate me, but the first ever Life Proof case was the last I got. It was the like one that they said was the best Life Proof case, and I got it and I put my phone in it, and 2 seconds later I dropped that phone because I have a bad track record, and the case shattered. Like, it didn't shatter, but it broke apart. And I put it together. My dad checked it out and everything, and it was set because I have a bad track record, like I said. And I dropped it 2 seconds later, and the thing cracked and like just fell apart. And I was like, Life Proof my ass.
It was a Samsung S4, and I bought a $90 Life Proof case because I was camping a lot, and I was like, this is waterproof, and it's supposed to be shattered. Like, no, worst $90 I'd ever spent in my life. 3 days old, brand new phone. Had to wait 2 weeks for a replacement because it had just been released. I was like,
yay.
Anyway, digress.
It knows. It knows when to fuck you over.
It does. Children should not be watching, by the way. Just in case. Make us swearing. So what do you mean by haunting then? Like, I get that soul. When you say soul, you mean something that can be reincarnated. And I'm equating that. This just might be me. Equating spirit with energy force, because I can get that. Like, walking down the street, there are some buildings that I will not go into because I can feel that energy. Like, there's a building on my grandmother's property. I will not get anywhere close because it just makes me start bawling my eyes out in terror. So, like, I just don't go near that building. So what do you mean by haunting then?
Well, if I say haunting, I am specifically referring to a completely non-corporeal entity that exists in us or is attached to a space
anywhere close because it just makes me
interacts with it
my eyes out in
some manner. So, like, not necessarily positive or negative.
So what do you mean by haunting then?
Mean or happy, but just a non-corporeal entity that is existing in that space. It can also sometimes be a spirit or a fragment. There's one road in Sonoma County, and when I was driving on it one night, really late at night, super foggy night, and I saw a truck coming the other way, like a big truck on the wrong side of the road. And when I got closer, there was no vehicle. So that was a remnant of something. I don't think it was a full soul that was trapped in the space, but something happened that made enough of an impression that it is mirrored in the place. And I would consider that a haunting because I actually physically saw it with my eyes. And I don't usually see and I don't see energy with my eyes. I'm one of those people who feels it tactily.
Okay.
It filters
Okay.
through my sense of touch. But I have at times seen ghosts and
Okay.
echoes of things.
So that made me think of this. I know this is kind of stupid and random, but it's in my notes in my phone because I remember talking to my friend about this at one point. Is that we were at a stoplight and I honked at someone because they didn't go at the green and it had been like a good 30 seconds and it turned red again. And I remember thinking to her, what if like sometimes you got somewhere and you like swear you heard someone honk, but no one's there? It was a ghost honk.
Mhm.
And I was like, could you imagine hearing that? Because I had heard that before. And she just thought it was crazy. And now it made me think of that. And I had to just check my phone to see if I ever put that back down, ghost honks, because I was remembering that. I was like, and that just really made me think of that kind of situation. And it's like, wow, I've made that so like understandable now. It's like that happened. It was a ghost honk.
So
because it scared the shit out of me.
So then
No
haunts
fear.
are some kind of manifestation of a spirit / ghost in reference to an actual living person, then, if I'm understanding correctly. I want to just make sure I get my terms right.
Different people are going to interpret haunting differently because a lot of that is going to depend on what kind of a path or practice you have. Because it's when you're talking about non-corporeal things like souls and ghosts and entities and all these spirits and these kinds of things, you're talking about something that is very subjective. And we each are going to experience them a little bit differently. If there can be very strong similarities, but there are going to be differences, and how different paths will teach us how to deal with them differently. Sorry. So when you what I consider a haunting isn't necessarily exactly what somebody else would consider a haunting, especially if they're someone who is a necromancer or does a lot of seances and stuff like that. I really haven't. I tend to pay more attention to the living souls around me, but I have had encounters with ghosts a few times, but not very many. But as far as I'm concerned, a haunting and differentiating it from a soul of a place would be that the soul of a place is the place and you're within it, but it's the place. But you can also have a ghost that is attached to a place.
Okay.
And that would be a haunting thing because it doesn't actually have a physical form, even if it is attached to that location. It is not the same thing as being the location.
Now, could not necessarily a place be haunted, but could like souls or I guess souls visit the earthly realm or something? Okay, basically my question is based off this because one time I was in my room at this new house. This isn't where I grew up, and then the dog that I grew up with lived at this house for not long, and then I swear she visited me at one point because it was pitch black in my room. And I went out and I heard this whining at my door, and I thought it was my current dog, or not my current dog, my current dog at the time, Luna. But there was no dog there, and they were scratching at my door. And then this shadow came in, like circled around me. I freaked the shit out, I was like, oh my god, die. And then it disappeared.
By a couple cats that I've had after they died.
You what? Sorry, you cut out.
I have been visited by a couple of cats that I've had after they died.
Okay, so like that can happen then, like visiting, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, there was one kitten that we ended up with in 1999, and she was very, very tiny. She was about the size of a 6-week-old kitten, but the vet said by her teeth she was probably 11 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
So she had been severely malnourished. And when we brought her into the house, we would notice out of the corner of our eyes, like both my 2 roommates and I noticed, and we'd see other little kittens playing in the corners. A couple of them were orange tabbies, a couple were gray tabbies like the kitten we had, and they grew up with her. So the other kittens from the litter, I'm positive, had stuck with her And over the years, we saw them less and less and less. But she didn't live very long because she wasn't very healthy. She ended up dying when she was 5, and she had been on cortisone shots since she was 2. And but we tried to give her as good a life as we could. And after she passed, it was probably 15 years later, and we went by a vet's office that we used to take her to all the time that we hadn't seen in a long time. And she was there, and she followed us home and hung out with us for about a month before finally deciding she had made her peace and moving on to her next life.
So beautiful.
Damn, that's really cute.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Damn. Cry. I don't like crying.
She loved everybody.
Ugh.
Damn.
Dead people I can deal with. Dead animals, I
is
cannot deal with
different.
it.
No.
All right, Cliff, I saw you pop up a couple of times. What did you want to say?
Oh no, I was mostly in agreement with Sydney about a lot of stuff. You know, I grew up in Placerville and lived in Coloma, and arguably probably one of the most haunted places in California. Depending on your definition of haunting. But yeah, the buildings there definitely have their own energy, their own spirit. I worked in the old Soda Works building when it was a metaphysical bookshop back in the early 90s. And that building by itself has some of the wackiest energy you'll ever probably experience. You go in there and you just get a plethora of different emotions and feelings and stuff like that.
Metaphysical stores are like that.
Well, and it's also directly across the street from the Druids Monument, the Druids of California Monument.
Oh wow!
And you know, it's a mining town. It's a mining town. It was an old hang town, so you know, hundreds of people have died there in various circumstances. You know, and it's got really crazy energy. The whole town. And you know, the old Soda Works building was easily over 150 years old. It had an old mine in it that was attached to a hotel down the road that used to be a brothel. So people would travel from the brothel to go into this building to get to the brothel without being seen. Government officials and stuff like that. That's the story, anyways. I was told. But you were asking about visitations, Kayla, and stuff like that. People purposefully do that through channeling as well, where you will invite a spirit to come and interact with you, and it can be very dangerous to do so, depending on your level of awareness and preparedness, and it's not for the faint of heart.
Oh yeah.
I do
not have a very
weak
weak mental constitution.
Yeah.
I have a very weak mental constitution, so I would get very, very screwed with dealing with stuff.
Well, and I'm very susceptible. Like that is something that I will admit I have purposely chosen not to learn about and train. I have decided not to train that kind of perception, because when it does happen, and it usually happens near the witching hour, when the veil is thin, specifically, when I have let down my personal guards, then I get bombarded. And it's usually when when I'm with someone in a place that great trauma has happened, either emotional or physical. Then I get bombarded and I get overwhelmed. One of my friends, we sat there and talked for 5 hours, and all of a sudden I looked at her and I was like, who's the lady? And we just had this conversation about her friend who she was caring for, who died in her house. And I was like, yeah, she's just standing in your doorway. I can see her out of the corner of my eye, just watching us. She's like, yeah, she does that.
She does that.
She's just trying to figure out if you're a friend, and I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
it's like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm running on no sleep now. So can you tell her to stop? You know, I mean, so to me, like, ghost spirits, that's all the same thing. Like, I will say that a malevolent spirit, because I would say that there are malevolent spirits everywhere in everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a humanoid malevolent spirit. Those things are the things that I would consider a haunt. You know, like, if they're going to be in a space, they mean harm, kind of thing.
Mhm.
That's a haunt to me.
Yeah.
I've never thought about this before, but I've always just, not because I've never, it's mainly because I've never thought about it, but I've always just assumed all ghosts or hauntings were done by human spirits or souls. And I've never really thought about the fact that, like, what if it's not? Just like,
you look at Office Space a whole lot differently when that scene comes around about them beating the crap out of that fax machine. That fax machine's probably gonna haunt that field. Okay,
my whole life, I'm gonna be so nice to everything. I'm very nice to my car, luckily, but sometimes I'm mean to her, and I feel like now she's gonna drive me off the road one day.
Is she OnStar enabled? She might.
No.
Not a self-driving car.
No, I'm gonna be in the middle of Wilson somewhere, and my car's gonna go.
I hadn't thought about Teslas.
Hold on, my mom is in my doorway. Give me a second. Yes, mother.
Yeah, most object souls are dormant. Our current car was dormant when we got it, even though it wasn't a new car. But we woke it up.
That's fine.
We do that with our cars.
I'm glad my car doesn't self-drive. It's a 2014. Although I do kind of want to test them, just because they're pretty, and I'm a sucker for
pretty things.
I like the shiny. God damn it!
So in your okay, so is animal? I'm going to say it wrong, and I'm sorry. Please correct me.
Animalism is what I call it.
Animism.
Animism.
Is that a path or is that a craft?
It's neither. It is a cosmological perspective. And what you do with it is dictated by Edward Bennett Tyler in his work Primitive Culture in, what was the year? 1871.
Sounds like he was not an archaeologist, anthropologist.
Yeah. So
like that.
The title is awful because he was going at it from the perspective of anything that wasn't modern was primitive and savage. But he was the guy who coined the term animism to describe commonalities that he was seeing across the board in most indigenous religions and in the evidence left behind in archaeology of Paleolithic religions. And shamanistic religions or shamanistic paths are typically, they are almost always animistic, but they're more than that because shamanism is a complex thing and each shamanistic path has its own complexities.
Right.
But animism is one of the things that they have in common. So like when people are talking about the spirit of bears and wolves and stuff, they're talking about different kinds of souls because like most of us are likely just our human souls. We bounce from human life to human life to human life. And like souls that are suited to being dogs are probably reincarnated as dogs and dogs and dogs, or maybe different kinds of canines. And
that was gonna be my next question. Could it be like different canines, maybe?
Yeah. And then there are
maybe
some souls that bounce around between different kinds of mammals and stuff, because it really wouldn't surprise me if I have had lives where I was like cats or wolves or whatever. It really, really wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't think every soul does that. But if you look at the flow of time, species change, they evolve, they're always changing. So in 1 million 5 million years, there are going to be different species around, even without humans annihilating all sorts of species off the face of the earth. Just because of evolution, there would be different species. So the souls would need to inhabit different kinds of creatures over the flow of time.
That makes sense.
Well, that makes sense just based on, like, I try to always put in a little bit of realism. I know we talk about stuff that's maybe not in the realm of, like, we'll say scientific physics. But I always try to center us on this, that, you know, we do live in the natural world, so the natural laws will still apply even to things like this. And that makes sense that a soul would inhabit probably a different species down the line, because eventually things are going to die off and new things are going to have to be created. And I say that because energy is never created and it's never destroyed. It's just recycled. So that makes perfect sense in the whole scheme of the actual way that the universe works.
Yeah, and I'm very much, I practice very scientifically minded witchcraft, because science is by far the best tool we have for describing the physical world we actually live in. But it falls short of when you're talking about subjective experiences like metaphysics, because they're completely subjective. You cannot objectively observe them or share them, and each of us interprets them differently.
Right.
So you can't use the scientific method on it, because there's no duplication of results.
Right.
Never going to happen.
Sorry.
But
not acceptable.
Yeah, animism, the word he derived from the Latin term anima, which means the air element, breath, life, spirit, soul, inner vitality, and breeze. So yeah, he was a Victorian white dude that was doing anthropology and probably looking down his nose at, you know, primitive people, but he was observant enough and cared enough to actually be paying attention and respectful of the ideas that he was trying to describe. Which, yeah, I don't know anything about the guy other than that, but I think that's
what was his name again? Good. Sorry, my mom kind of came in right there.
Was Sir Edward Burnett Tyler.
Sir Edward Burnett Tyler.
She's the one that takes our notes most of the time, because I'm just...
I gotta write that down. Where did my pen go?
Catty.
And I can send you the name later.
Yeah, you know, that'd be great. I have your article up because I was reading it as I was gonna try to read it, but you have really good, like, I just have to put this out, like, you write really well.
Prose, like, your prose is phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
I hope you don't mind. I shared this article, and I'm gonna share your other ones on my Snapchats and my Instagrams. I hope you don't mind, but they're very insightful. So I just thought, oh look, there it is, Sir Edward Burnett Tyler, right there. I just scrolled right down to it. But I just want to put out, you really put your, like, you're very good at putting your wording together, and I appreciate that. It's understandable. I appreciate it. So thank you. So I encourage everyone to read all her articles. Their articles. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I use all pronouns. You can call me he. I don't care.
Cool.
So
that's why I tell people, I'm like, I don't care. You can call me whatever. I'll appreciate the attention. That's me. That's just me personally, though.
You're like a goldfish. Just pay attention to me.
Every 15 seconds, my attention span changes to something new. It's like, oh, I have that.
So, being that this came about by studying, we'll say, indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
Is the practitioner? Well, would it be safe to say that you guys are practitioners of this particular philosophy? Or?
No, being animistic is like, being animistic just means you recognize the souls around you. It isn't a thing you practice. It's a thing you recognize. It's it's an understanding of how the world around you works on a metaphysical level. Like, as far as, like, souls go. And like I said, depending on your path or tradition, what you do with that changes, because any traditions and paths that include animism or animistic elements, which most polytheistic paths do, most indigenous paths do, and they suspect most like Paleolithic paths also do or did. And when you have these elements, they'll inform how do you interact with these spirits, because they're all around you. And when you recognize that they are actual independent entities that are as deserving of existing in this world as we are, well, what do you do with that? Especially if you're concerned about things like consent and compassion and being polite. So like that's why I think it's important to recognize, why I recognize the difference between dormant and awake souls. Like disposable objects, I will never, ever, ever try to wake up their soul.
Because
I mean,
yeah,
they wouldn't
that would
be a
be really
disposable object
sad.
if they weren't fine with being a disposable object. And compared to a mountain, you and I have disposable lifespans. I mean, there's different souls are incarnated in different ways.
Let's not talk about it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But it can get very sad and overwhelming if you're a really compassionate person to think about those things, which is why, if from an animistic perspective, it's really easy to ethically get behind treating the world well and wanting it to be environmentally sound, because we are literally obliterating so many things every minute of every day, and it's tragic. But it can also be very uplifting because it means you can form a relationship with the things in your life that you value and the spaces in your life that you value. When you're doing a house cleansing and warding, if you appeal to the spirit of the house and wake it up and go, hey, the house exists to shelter people. That's why it was built. So if you wake that up and you form a positive relationship with it and include it in your wards, it will guard itself too.
I hadn't thought about that.
And like your phone's breaking all the time. If you form a positive relationship with your phone,
I'm so mean to my phone. No wonder it breaks
This is the first time like I actually got one of these pretty cases.
oh,
You
I
know,
love
it-
that.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
know,
take it back. I'm nice to this one.
This one, I got the screen covers. It's got 9 hardness screen cover on it. You know, like this phone.
I'm only
Ooh.
nice to this phone.
For
This is my
electronic
dad's
devices.
phone.
Oh my gosh.
I realize that, you guys. I'm only nice to this phone because it was my dad's phone and he passed away. This is the only phone that I've never broken because it was my dad's phone. I've broken every single phone. Thanks, Dad.
I wanted to touch on something really quick. The house guarding itself, and as far as that goes, that all goes back to the myths and the legends of the Hearthstone. You know, not being able, malevolent objects not being able to cross the hearth of your home. You know, it's that exact thing. It's the spirit of your home. It's protecting your home.
So when people like lay down protection stuff or anything like that, it's basically just like amplifying the home's own protection.
Can be, depending on how they are approaching it. If you're deliberately, consciously approach it animistically, you can absolutely include that sort of thing. And a lot of those traditions, if you look at them closely and you have an understanding of what animism is and how these rituals and these spells affect the soul of the home, you can see how it would have its roots in animistic principles. A lot of the magic we do, a lot of the way we conduct offerings has animistic roots that you can find if you're looking for them, but it tends to go unspoken because Western culture is so vehemently non-animistic.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And most,
I understand
and most of us
that.
come from Christian or other mainstream religious backgrounds, so we don't get raised looking at the magic of the world around us.
Oh, okay. I think I yeah. Well, I mean, I spoke. There was an episode before. I don't remember what the topic was, but I remember speaking about like I feel like a lot of us approach. We find a different path or craft to walk somewhere in our teens because we start feeling that mysticism of childhood disappear and we go looking for it again.
Yeah.
So is that about the time that we start losing our animistic qualities?
It depends. It's going to depend on the person and their particular environment and how strongly they imprinted on that idea. I very strongly imprinted on that idea. So when I had church people telling me only humans have souls, I was like, pardon my French, bullshit. I can
Always
see them.
felt that.
I can feel them. I can perceive them. That's stupid. Can't you see them? I really didn't understand that other people couldn't see that. So I held on to it the whole way through. And I found the term animism in my teens and was like, aha, there's the word for how I see the world. I think a lot of people, if their family, depending on how their family is and how their environment is, they can start losing that when they're toddlers. When it's like, when they're like coddling their teddy bear and talking to it like a person, and it's like, oh, well, it's just a toy. Or you go to school and you want to talk to the little rocks. A lot of people who are naturally inclined to witchcraft like to talk to rocks and twigs and sticks and stuff.
This is my rock I talk to, okay? Like, it's literally on my desk. I just dropped it. Oh my god.
What the hell?
It's okay. It's okay. He's tough. He's tough. The reason why he's the only one that's out, though, is because River plays with him. So, because River loves my rocks. But
you know, our children's stories are rife with animism, though. I mean, and it's you know, Winnie the Pooh is a great example of animism. The Velveteen Rabbit is another example of animism being in our children's stories.
Animistic.
Yeah.
Because at the end, when the rabbit goes away, he's greeted and told that usually things only gain a soul when they have become worn and are that well loved. That's not my experience, but I have seen that sort of thing, and that is directly animistic.
It's the blue fairy concept. The blue fairy grants the inanimate object life or a soul.
Pinocchio.
As in Pinocchio, or as in they go down that rabbit hole in the movie AI.
Yeah. Oh, that is one of my favorite movies.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, dude,
don't shame me.
No, you need to see it.
Okay.
You need to see it. It is a masterpiece. Masterpiece.
That made me kind of think of, though, like with children, like toddlers specifically, with when parents try to have them give up their binky or their pacifier, whatever you want to call it. My sister was really hard giving that up. Like, it kind of makes me think, like, I know it's I just threw my pen. It's an inanimate object, but like they form an attachment with that object, and my sister formed a really deep one with hers, from my understanding, from what my parents told me. It was really hard for her to give it up. They really had to bribe her hard with that. And I know a lot of kids had the same thing. My nephews, they never really cared too much, so they didn't have that issue. So I can't, from my own personal anecdotal experience, it's not hereditary, but you never know, it could be. But with a lot of people, like one of my friends that I've known, my voice cracked. They had a real intense longing with their binky, their blanket. I had a really intense longing with my blanket, and a lot of other like kid things. But then as we grew older, we really I guess died out or something.
Yeah, well, some people naturally outgrow things and they become interested in other things, but most of us were directly discouraged from continuing to love the things that we love as children, which I think is a travesty, and you should just love what you love, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. My parents always encouraged me to, do what I love, but not necessarily make it. This is where it like kind of discouraged me a bit, is not make it my life passion, because they wanted me to succeed they want me to succeed, but still be able to succeed in the mainstream life, like what everyone's normally okay with. And if you know what I mean by that, like, follow the trend, follow the norm, go with the norm type thing. Yeah. Try to live life so that you can live life to your fullest. Kind of like manipulating the world around you with how the world is currently, not try to change it, try to fit in type deal, while trying to be yourself at the same time. So my parents did encourage the individualism, but they also, I feel like at the same time, this is just my own how I viewed it is I felt like I was getting shut down from how I saw a lot of things. And I used to view a lot of my objects in my life. Like now, this conversation has made me really realize like a lot of my past, like I put a soul or whatever to a lot of the things I dealt with and like, or played with, or even just, I attribute a lot of energy, I guess, to a lot of things. And as I grew older, I really thought of like, no, this isn't normal or whatever. And I need to really think of what's normal. And that's also what I'm trying to figure out with my path and my craft is like, it's hard for me to accept a lot of things because it's not Christian normal or it's not Catholic normal, because that's how I was raised, is really very Christian Presbyterian normal. And that's what I've been a lot of dealing with. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this, because it's really making me think of like a lot of like the past stuff that has been like taught out of me, unlearned, whatever the word is.
Yeah. Well, it's an acculturation thing.
Yeah.
And Western culture very much discourages thinking animistically, even though you can find animistic elements all over the place.
Huh. All my fish have souls. Every single fish. My mom can say I'm stupid, but every single one. People are always like, you don't get sad when your fish die. I don't like to show emotion. I am super fucking sad inside, but I'm just like,
I miss my goldfish. I used to have some.
I just lost a koi angelfish. He was my bitch. Sorry, he was. I loved him, and he's dead. I had a nitrate spike.
I'm sorry.
I still have the spike, but all my other fish are surviving, so it's whatever. But
Fix it.
It went down quite a bit, but he had so much soul. He was a unique fish. And I had a teacher that tried to say that no other animals had souls, and it was a psych teacher too. And I was like,
I just lived through that face, by the way. That face. Oh my gosh. That used to be a t-shirt right there, that face. Before you go on another tangent, I wanna address this question we got in the chat. Question from Tara. Hi, Tara.
I see it. Hi, Tara.
What are your thoughts on other forms of casual or commercial animism? For example, decluttering / organization methods like KonMari.
I've never even heard of that KonMari.
So KonMari, I love KonMari. I have not the will to do it myself. But what you basically do is you like put all your shit in a big pile and go through the pile and find the things that give you joy. And if it doesn't
do that.
Sorry. And if it doesn't give you joy, say thank you and let it continue on its journey.
Oh,
I just got tingles. I need to do that.
Like I said earlier, Shinto is the only major world religion that is animistic. Shinto is the religion.
I need to write that down because I didn't write that earlier.
It's the religion in Japan. That is what most Japanese people are Shinto. So, yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on it? What's the question? What are your thoughts on it?
What are my thoughts on it? That when you throw things out, it is good to be respectful and thank them for what they brought to your life while you were in it, whether you're donating it or throwing it away or giving it away or selling it, whatever. If you had something in your life and it brought something to you, it is very respectful to thank it before sending it on. And that you are recognizing the soul of the object and what it brought into your life. But as whether or not to do that, that's up to you, because that's just personal. As far as organizing and decluttering and that sort of thing. But the way she approaches it is very animistic, but I doubt she ever uses the word animism. And that's the thing. It's when you are animistic, especially if you're raised animistic, it just seems obvious. And like, why would you even need to explain what that is? And a lot of people won't even like recognize that that's what they're doing, or that would be the term for it. I was happy when I found the term, because I had people my whole life telling me only humans have souls. And
also to piggyback off the only humans have souls, and like we just got a comment from Diana saying only evil people claim animals don't have souls. That's so true. My teacher also claimed that they don't have any personality either.
You're not my cat.
And I believe that like a personality, I'm not gonna say I believe this. I want to believe that a personality is different than like a soul, but I don't really like believe that because it's like I can't even define either one. But it's like you got your personality and then there's a soul. They're two different things, I feel like.
Well,
But everyone's got it.
Your personality is who you are in this life. Your soul is something that continues between multiple lives.
Damn, that's good.
Write that shit down.
Hold on, wait. Can you repeat it one more time? Because I have ADHD.
Your personality is who you are in this life. Your soul is what continues across multiple lives. And every
soul continue across. Okay, so I'm doing shorthand.
You're going to have a different personality. And that's actually something else that I need to write about, haven't gotten around to yet, is the whole nature versus nurture thing. The idea of, is it your environment that makes you have your personality, or is it something inherent in you? And I think it depends on the person and it depends on the environment. But
that's true.
A lot of a personality can come from the soul. The way I, as a very small child, was like, yeah, I know I'm not really a woman. And I'm not really a man, but I can relate to both. Decided that when I was really little, and there was nothing anybody could say that would have convinced me otherwise. And the whole holding on to animism and going, no, it's obvious. I can tell there are souls around me. I take that as an indication that my soul was like, yeah, we're just gonna do this stuff, and everybody else, the environment, the nurture part can just go on that. But because every single person responds differently. You can put different people into identical environments and there will be similarities, but different people will respond to them ultimately differently because we have different stuff driving us both on a physical level, because that impacts personality, how our brain chemistry is, and the soul impacts it as well. Yeah.
As a psychology major, I very much agree with that. But also, I also like from what I've learned, it really just depends on the person too. Like what you said, like it can be both nature and nurture that really affects the person. It could be more nature than nurture. It can be more nurture than nature because everyone gets very different upbringings in life. And for I don't know, just say it's normal. I mean, there I guess is a psychological normal.
Cultural norms are determined by culture, and they vary from culture to culture.
Cultural norms are very different from psychological norms, societal norms, and people like to generalize that. And it's like, no.
It's never just one or another answer. It's always messy.
Right. And I feel like that's why I'm very grateful for the psychology aspect of schooling. Is
but
like,
I guess
that helped me realize that. Because I used to think it was very like, oh, it's one or the other, or it's like both. You can't. I used to feel like it's everyone is like this, and it's
no, it's always messier than people want to make it. Binary systems,
it's not black and white. Super gray.
Oppositional binary systems are inherently flawed. They always ignore chunks of reality. But actually, this brings me back to the imprinting energy question from way earlier.
Oh yeah.
So imprinting energy would be like the nurture part. And conducting your spell work in the environment to encourage a house to wake up and be your friend would be a nurture type thing. But the equivalent for the object, like say an athame you're consecrating, or your home, or your car, or your phone, or your computer. I have a habit of waking up like vehicles and electronics. But I tend to leave most other objects to wake up or stay dormant as they please.
Those damn vehicles and electronics, they need your attention.
Well,
they're needy.
They have more agency. They can move things and they do things and they have energy, and it's really, really interesting.
I'm really gonna have to look more into animism because I'm so interested in this topic now. Like,
I gotta ask this before we get off, though.
We're very close. Yes.
Yeah, we are very, very close. You had mentioned that Shintoism is the only path that is animistic. But what about indigenous cultures? And I'm bringing this up because we always try to bring up culture appropriation versus appreciation. And so how do we have an animistic outlook on life?
The drain. I'm sorry.
All good. How do we have an animistic outlook on everything and still not get into that area where we have to worry about cultural appropriation or appreciation and that whole battle inside?
Don't have to worry about cultural appropriation or cultural appreciation, because animism is a thing that humans can see about the world around them. Animism in and of itself tells you nothing about what to do with it. And different paths, if they're animistic, which most indigenous paths are, Shinto is the only major world religion.
Okay.
That I want to make that distinction. It isn't the only thing, but is the only major world religion that is practiced by millions of people that is animistic.
Okay, see, I gotta add that into my notes because I didn't put that down. Major role.
Yeah. So, but most indigenous religions are, and a lot of polytheistic, like modern neo-pagan religions, have very animistic elements in them, and a lot of practitioners of those paths will be like, I keep saying religion because I'm thinking things like heathenism and the Egyptian pantheon, very, very animistic. And the Greek, Roman, any of the Celtic, you can take them animistically or you can not. They definitely have animistic roots. So you can see that once you know what you're looking at. But it's really an individual perspective on what you're looking at in the world around you. You can be completely not following any specific path and still recognize souls around you. It's independent of that sort of thing. And then the traditions inform how to interact with those spirits. So like African religious traditions have extremely specific ways that you want to deal with certain spirits in certain times, in certain places. I wouldn't know the specifics of any of those, but I know they have very specific practices on a lot of those things. And I don't know how many of them are fully animistic, but they definitely have animistic elements that I've observed. Those traditions will tell you how to interact with the spirit of a place, or approaching a river in a way where you are interacting with it on a metaphysical level, or approaching a sacred building or a sacred space. And if you're animistic, you see the soul of the place is what you're respecting, in addition to whatever else is going on. And if you're not animistic, you're respecting the place as being just holy and sacred for the tradition. But how you approach it is where cultural appropriation would come in, and not in recognizing that it has a soul.
Okay. Well, thank you for putting that made complete sense. And Sid, I want to say thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. You have blown our minds. I mean,
I'm reeling. I'm like,
I don't think we've ever had this many viewers or this much chatter on an episode. And I would be honored if you decided to come back and join us for another conversation.
Same.
I'd love to.
Oh, I
would be so honored.
I'd asked for any other questions from anyone, and I don't see any popping up. So why don't you, while we have a couple of minutes, do you have anything you want to share with our watchers, our listeners? Do you have any upcoming events? I know you have your blog, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, I blew that up. Blow your blog up right now. Blow it up.
I am writing The Balancing Path on Pathos. My personal website is SidneyEileen.com. That's SidneyEileen.com. And you can find everything there. You can find links to my social media. I do post to the blog there every time I post on Pathos. And anything else that I do that doesn't go on Pathos, I will mention there. So that is the central place to find out what I'm up to and what I'm doing. I don't have any specific events coming up, but I have applied to present at a couple different conventions that are happening virtually this year. So I'm hoping to do that. And I'm hoping to do some more podcasts because I enjoy doing this sort of thing. It's fun. So for right now, just writing. I'm hoping to throw up a few more articles on animism in the next couple months, talking about different aspects of it. There's the main article that I've posted so far that's just a general overview of what is animism. But I also want to talk about like applying it to house cleansing and applying it to consecrating and using magical tools and some other things like that. And I need to write about nature versus nurture. It's been on my list for a long time, and it's about time I actually wrote it.
I know Kayla's very interested. I can see it in her eyes.
I know.
Well,
I'm very interested.
Again,
I feel
and
very
when I
touched.
come back, I think I can speak for all of Mysteries Mystical Covered, saying, please come and join us again. Because
I would love to.
Heck yes.
Please and I know it's kind of ragtag, but I think we get stuff done.
we talked
Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. Anybody have anything else they want to say? Oh, yes, actually. Oh my goodness. So for those who are still watching, I know there's only 4 of y'all. Thank you. I have set up a Discord server. We may open it up to you guys so you can send us your questions there, even when we don't have an episode. We haven't decided that yet. I haven't talked to Kayla.
I'm fine with that. We can just go with that. I'm fine with that.
And April 15th, we're going to be moving to YouTube. We're launching the YouTube channel. And we will have a couple of new products to premiere on our social medias as well. So look out for those and like them if you haven't yet. I think that's
work on more runes. I'm working on those gilded runes.
I know. I know
I have
really
someone who already wants some, so I honestly do have to work on the gilded ones because I have someone who wants to buy some already. But since I haven't finished them, I can't honestly put them up for sale yet. But once I do, we can sell those. I already have someone who wants to buy a set. Nice. And they're like, I'll pay you whatever you want. That's like an arm and a leg. Thank you, Alphonse. Or Edward. Actually, it's Edward, but close enough. Alphonse sold his whole body.
I'm going to say good night to everybody. Yeah. I will talk to everyone soon. Again, Sydney, thank you so much.
We're not live. Are we live anymore?
We're still live.
We are? My cat's in my room. Come here. Oh, yeah.
A cat attack.
My mom let him in.
Anyways, thank you so much again. I hope you guys have a great evening. I love you all. And I hope to talk to you guys next week.
Goodbye.